the UNESCO and others. Just to give you a quick summary of where we've got to so far. We started in January and we began by gathering over 60 international case studies of OER initiatives, which we then made available on our CloudWorks site. I'll put the URL in a minute, or perhaps Paul, you could put it in on my behalf, please. From those case studies, we then abstracted a set of practices around the creation, use and management of OER, a set of dimensions, and refined those into 4 major categories of dimensions around the use, creation and management of OER. We had a very good meeting in September in Lisbon, where we had an expert group looking at aspects of that, and we ran a workshop alongside the FPEL project and got some very valuable feedback. And we're now starting to move into the next phase of work, which will be taking these dimensions and a quality cube model for OEP that we've developed from those, in terms of looking at the level of maturity of open educational practices at individual, institutional and national level. And we're going to transfer those into a set of guidelines for different stakeholders. Stakeholders being managers, those involved in the learning and teaching process, academics, students, etc. So we plan to develop a set of different practices to guide people. The plan for this session is to focus on 4 questions that we want to elicit in terms of OER and OEP. We also asked these questions to participants at the FPEL conference and videotape those, and again those are all available on the CloudWorks site. So the plan for the session is, once I finish the introduction, we'll go through each of the questions in turn as listed there, and we'll do a round robin. So I'll ask each of you in turn to just give a minute or 2 of your reflections on the question. Paul is going to kindly take notes for us, and we'll summarise and send those round afterwards. And this is to feed into a larger expert panel meeting that we're planning in Paris in November. So we're really trying to validate the work we've been doing and to kind of refine the questions and tease out some of the kind of key issues and challenges around open educational practices. So I hope that's clear. I'll just stop for a minute. And again, if you could tick and let me know if that's clear, or if something isn't clear, then just put your hands up and ask before we go into the main session. So if people could just tick the green tick, just to say that everything's okay so far. Okay, I've not got everyone's ticks, but I'm kind of going to assume that it's okay. But if it isn't, just raise your hand and I'll stop, and feel free to ask a question. So the first question we want to focus on in the next 20 minutes or so is looking at open educational resources generally. We know the OER movement has gained that significant interest internationally and momentum over the last 10 years or so, supported by key players such as UNESCO and the Hewlett Foundation in the States. What we want to look at is why this OER movement is so important. So the key question is, what opportunities do you think there are for OER? What opportunities do you think OER offer for education from your perspective? So we could start first with Andy Lane, who I should mention was Director of OpenLearn, which is one of the first initiatives in OER developed here at the Open University. So I'll hand the floor over to you, Andy. sorry to cut across you, but we can't hear you. We can't hear anything at all. Andrew. Yes, that Andrew's having some technical difficulty, so we'll come back to him in a minute. David, perhaps I could ask you, you might want, in terms of your view, maybe you want to say a little bit in terms of what the JISC and HEA are doing in this area. I should mention that David is involved from the JISC side in terms of current OER initiatives. So I'll hand the floor over to you, David.
Okay, thanks very much, Ronya, and thanks for inviting me to this meeting. I much appreciate it. Can I just check, first of all, can people actually hear me? If people can hear me, please come and make an appropriate emotion. A tick box, a bit of laughter. These are the kind of feelings I create when I walk into a room. Applause, I like that. And Thomas is worried. Thank you, Thomas. Right. So people can hear me. I should firstly briefly introduce. My official job title is the Program Manager of the JISC Higher Education Academy OER Phase 2 program. I also held the same role for the Phase 1 program. What we did at Phase 1, just quickly, and I'll stick some links in the chat box later, is we supported 29 projects around the release of OER. We concentrated purely and simply on the release. We just wanted to look at the processes around that and look, for the first time I think, at lots of different models of release simultaneously, and trying to draw together commonalities, differences. The findings from stage 1, you can see the evaluation of synthesis file records, which is it was conducted for us for a team based at Glasgow Caledonian University. This is the likes of Alison Littlejohn, Helen Beeson, people that you've probably come across. It's been presented in the form of a wiki. It's a fantastic report. I would strongly recommend having a look at it. The other key thing that we did was the OER info kit. This is aimed very much at the person who's just beginning to get involved with OER. A lot of practical tips, a lot of practical examples from the project. So we did that, and we run an event which we called UK OER 10, which also presented it, and there's some audio recordings of the sessions from that event that are available. Definitely worth a listen, especially the session on sustainability, which was Peter Robinson from Oxford and Joss Wynn from Lincoln. Especially Joss actually is thinking on the sustainability of OER is very, very interesting. It's been a great kind of influence on my perspective on OER. So we've got a Phase 2. Phase 2, we're still doing more release, and some of which of this is around the professional standards for staff who teach in higher education, which people in the UK might have noticed was mentioned in the Brown Review. So that's a very timely thing. We're looking at a cascading practice from existing projects to new people that are interested, so taking models that kind of work in one place and seeing if they work anywhere else.